territory. Um, and I'm gonna be with y'all today. Um, and I'm gonna be my whole self today. And so I hope you're ready.
Let it
uh,
rip.
yeah. Um, yeah. So I want to establish what the format for this evening is going to be. I would love to tell you a little bit about myself, but that feels kind of boring to me. So I kind of want to take an opportunity to play a game before we start. Would y'all like to play a game with me? Yeah, I'm seeing some. Oh, I didn't sign up for a game. Y'all didn't let the facilitator in the room, but she's just gonna do the thing that she does. Okay, so um, this game is called the Curiosity Game. And in the Curiosity Game, we not only build relational soil with each other, but we establish the kind of norms that we want to create in the spaces that we belong to. Um, One of the things that I encourage in my work with plant medicines and food medicines and ancestral reclamation is that we stay curious in order to avoid the dominant narratives that are so easy to fall into. Um, I see that my sweet wife, my sweet sis Karina, is on the call, and maybe you would be willing to do a demonstration of this curiosity game with me before we let other folks into it. How does that feel to you?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay, so here's the rules for the container. In the curiosity game, you get to be with one person, and you get to sit with them, and you get to check in with yourself what it is that you're curious about that person. Um, that person is going to receive your curiosities and not reciprocate. And so you're going to have the opportunity to notice and witness yourself and witness how you engage when you first move into creation. So, the format for tonight, we're going to play a short little game. I'm going to share briefly with you. And then I want you to get real curious about this hour that you have with me and with the Truth Telling Collective. And I want you to get real curious about what you would like to know about our relationships to the earth, to mama, to they, to them, to the all, and how being in relationship to the earth shores up our relationship to the divine, but also shores up our relationship to moving any and all things forward, because it's from the earth that we emerge and it's to the earth that we return. So uh, Karina. uh,
Hello.
I'm gonna pin your video, so I'm staring at you right now. Um, and my first curiosity about you is how has your family responded to your piercings and tattoos? But you don't have to answer.
Okay.
Rena, I'm curious about the first thing that you see when you wake up in the morning now that you're in Mexico. Um, I'm curious about um, your relationship to stability as you are um, moving in the space. I'm curious about your braids. I wonder like how long you sat there getting your hair done. Um, I'm curious about your thoughts. Like, how do you feel about reparations? Do you have a plant that has saved your life? Um, what is your like? How have you decolonized posture since your adulthood? What is it like to be an athlete, to have been an athlete, and to now be a regular person in the world? Do you miss those days? I'm curious about if these questions are making you feel nervous. Um, I'm curious. Hmm, I'm curious about what colors make you smile. If there's like a color that can be present that will have you smile bigger. And I'm curious what color that would be. Um, I am okay. I think that's a good amount. Um, After we share our curiosities, I'm gonna unpin your video. After we share our curiosities with our partner, and also remember, you can opt out of this game. The most important part is the integration, and so you're going to ask and be in conversation about what it was like to have received the curiosities of the other. And because it's not a full session, we're gonna maybe have 4 minutes. Um, I am not the the admin, so I'm gonna allow y'all to go into breakout rooms, um, introduce yourself, and you don't have to go into breakout rooms. We can stay in the main room and keep chatting. But I want you to experience what it is to actually drop in with other human beings in a real way. So, any questions before we move into our breakout rooms?
I have a question.
Yes.
So we just ask a number of questions during the 4 minutes we have, and then the other person asks a number of questions?
It's not going to be reciprocal. So it's going to be 2 minutes of question asking and then 2 minutes of reflecting. And you get to choose. Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. I want you to reciprocate with someone outside of this event and share your mutual curiosities. Thank you for that question. I will let you know when 2 minutes are up. And then I'll let you know when it's time to switch. So you'll get a little prompting. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So if the admin can break us off into groups of 2, I'm actually going to stay in the main room and I will be here with anyone who just don't feel like playing. It's like it's the end of my day. I am tired. Y'all play the most games. Um, thank you, Liz. Take care. So yeah, we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna come back to a little talk and some Q&A. And I'm not sure who's gonna who's gonna break you out to breakout rooms. Thank you, Josh.
So how big did you want the rooms? 2 on 2?
Yes, just 2 in each room, please.
No problem.
No one was in my room.
Sorry, Bae. How did it feel to go to an empty room?
It felt sad. Just kidding. It didn't feel sad. I don't know. I was like, maybe we just didn't have an even amount. So honestly, I was on Instagram waiting until someone showed up. So yeah, here we are.
We are. Yeah, I'm excited about today. When David said I could do whatever I wanted, I said,
You
bet.
said, oh, indeed, I will.
Um, hmm. I see Lorraine. I see Khalid.
Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Khalid. Hi, Adrian.
Yes, thank you all.
How y'all doing?
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. So I'm curious about y'all. So you don't have to turn your screen on if you don't want. It's perfectly fine. But I would love to hear um, what's moving you today. Have you been moved by something? And it doesn't have to be like positive movement. It could be whatever kind of movement. But what's showing up in your world that's giving you wings?
What was the very last word that you said? I didn't hear it. Sorry.
What's showing up in your world that's giving you wings? What's moving you? Um, I'm not the admin, so I can't tell people to switch.
Oops. I guess people are just gonna hang out with each other, which we love.
Which we love. Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
It's okay. I know it's a quick question, but the thing that comes up first is the right answer. Um,
I
Lorraine,
think. Oh,
Nobody came in my room.
I know that's why I came back here because no one was in my room.
how do we end the breakout room sessions?
Just it should be something, a bar at the bottom that says in breakout sessions.
Do you know how to
Maybe
make
you
it
can
happen?
make me co-host and I can.
Um, so I'm
No
not
one was in my breakout room either.
okay.
I was supposed to be in, I had stepped away for a moment and I stepped back. I saw breakout room 2. I had been assigned to, and all I got was an echo. I
Oh,
got there. So
well,
It's fine.
it's fine. We're asking the question of what moved you today? And maybe Khalid, is that Khalid?
right. Either way, that's fine.
Hey, yeah, what moved you today?
Uh, Basically just a sense of urgency in terms of getting certain things done. Time that I had today, certain tasks I needed to accomplish. And I think for the most part, I did okay. Didn't get everything done, but I got most of it done. And as a matter of fact, being here is part of what it was that I need to get done. I had registered to be part of this event. And so I wanted to make sure that I was able to participate as much as I possibly could.
Yeah.
So that's what moved me today. Just a sense of being task oriented and a sense of urgency to try to get some things done before it was time for me to retire for the evening and go to bed.
Truly, thank you for sharing that.
I guess one thing that I thought of is that one thing that's moved me today is remembering that I can breathe in between every thought. I can actually enjoy breathing in between every thought.
That's beautiful.
I want to practice that. I want to practice that right now. Lorraine, I'm curious about what's moving you. Lorraine said, nothing. No, it's all good. So we are going to be joined by the other folks briefly. We're going to move into a small conversation, and then you all will have the opportunities to be curious about me. Okay. Welcome back, y'all.
Asia,
Hi, Jared.
forgive me for stepping out of line. I just wanted to say that that was the most awkward experience that I ever had in my life. And on top of that, I'd like to admit to you right now in front of everybody um, that I cheated, and I answered I answered my partner's question. And I just like to ask for your forgiveness because I've never done anything like this before. And I
Yes,
felt obliged to answer the questions. And I'm so sorry.
I
Um,
love it. Y'all, yes. Tell me more about how awkward it is to be actually real with people. Like, what was the most awkward thing about it? Let's stay with this. Like, what was that like? What was the thing that made it the most awkward?
like just listening and not answering. I don't think any questions were just like outlandish. I think the questions were understandable, but it felt strange being another human in a conversation, not being able to participate and engage with that other person. It felt wrong. And
Mm,
I had to tell my partner that I'm sorry, I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to answer your questions.
yes.
So it just felt wrong. And again, I hope I didn't mess up. I probably did. So I'm sorry.
You did so well. I'm so proud of you for standing in your truth and doing what felt good to you, irrespective of the external rules imposed by somebody else. So who else cheated? Let's
We cheated.
that's right. That's right. Yes, I'm so happy that you cheated. Listen, rules are meant to be broken. And also, like, this is the process of relationality. Okay. Um, I wanted you, does anybody else want to okay, thank you so much. We will see you soon. You know, does anybody else want to share something that occurred to them, that occurred for them doing that activity?
Well, Asia, can I? Yeah. One
Yeah.
of the, I was asking the curiosity questions, and at one point, I occasionally would feel like, am I infringing on somebody else? Am I bursting into their privacy?
Mhm.
And there was, I guess, kind of sort of that fear, and it's making me wonder that sometimes that fear that we're infringing on somebody else can actually keep us from engaging with another person,
Yeah.
because we're curious, but we let the fear of thinking that we're prying into their lives, whatever.
Yes.
So I just wanted to share that was one of the things that I felt at a given point, but I didn't succumb to it.
Yes. And what was it like to receive the curiosities of others? Did you learn anything about your questioner? Rabbi Lynn?
Well, I'm not the rabbi person, but I can't claim that. I didn't do the work to earn that one. I'm just the secular Lynn. I had the same feeling as Richard. But I'm such a good girl that I didn't break the rules. I wish I'd broken the rules. But it felt like I really wanted to answer, and I wanted to ask the same, same or different questions of Catherine. So it was It was hard, but I had to be totally present, and that felt really good.
Yes. Yes. So welcome, y'all. My my knowledge of the body, and especially of heart rate variability, tells me that we have been able to create what's called coherence, and specifically a coherent group field by dropping into relationship with each other. What coherence does is that it improves the flow of the blood in our body. It helps us to bring clarity and focusedness. And it also brings us into the present moment, which moves us towards actual experiences of happiness and grace. I practice relationship as a social technology. And the way that we practice relationships with each other as humans is similar to how we are going to be practicing relationships with plants and our non-human kin. We have been taught to respond to the natural world as if we already know, right? And what I really encourage folks to do in building earth-based relationships that can provoke the same amount of ease and the same amount of security, but also the same amount of tension and anxiety, is to become deeply curious to it. I have sat with a plant that I don't know the name of and just asked it questions, knowing that it's probably not going to respond to me. But just it receiving my curiosity, right? Just the receiving of it was able to build a relationship between me and that plant. And so there's these ways of acting and these ways of being in relationships with beings who are nonverbal, and it's just the noticing alone that causes there to be growth and development, not only in that being, but also in us as we relate to that being. I'm saying goodbye to my sister. She's going to New Mexico. I love you. Thank you for coming. And so what is this conversation about, like radical truth telling? I moved into what's called post-activism. I said, I don't want to fight against anymore, right? I said that resistance equals persistence. What would it be like to radically accept the world as it is and create from a foundation of nothing? And so I began to get really curious about the world outside of politics. I began to get really curious about what it means to not just be a queer, Black, femme, like all the things, like what does it mean to be just a brown-bodied Homo sapien in high altitude prairie bioregion, right? What does it mean to be like an animal? And what is this experience of my animal nature outside of the stories that I've been told to take on by radical forms of education? And what is it like to dig deep into the politics of self and place and body? And so I decided to really dig in literally to the earth by becoming a food manufacturer. I had a fermented food company, and we only sourced all of our foods from this bioregion. And the whole purpose of it was to get people's microbiomes to actually reflect the land where they emerged from. I found that having a dysregulated microbiome, or having an internal identity that was separate from the external identity, caused there to be leakage and dysregulation. And so for me, it was like, how can we use the the earth to heal the body, to heal the mind. Um, and so by cultivating the microorganisms from my bioregion, Cheyenne, Utah, Arapaho, whoop, whoop, I was able to really help to shift the behavioral patterns of folks. I was able to help them move away from anxiety and insecurity, right? From that work of building my fermented food company, it was a co-op. Karina came through, and even David worked in our kitchen. So
Yes, yes.
yes, from that place, I learned, I got a sense of what it means to begin to heal the body through using the ecosystem. And I was curious about what else was out there. I was using a lot of herbs for flavor, things like that. But I was like, well, what is this? And so I had massive anxiety starting a company like fresh out of college. Like it was terrible, y'all. Like the company was great, but I was a mess. Okay. Talk about grind culture, being an entrepreneur, it's not cute. But what I loved about like having that anxiety was that I was forced to become, to be in relationship with plant medicines in a brand new way. So I had a friend who was able to make a really beautiful tincture. Shout out to Sarah Chevelle. And 3 drops of this tincture and my anxiety, which had me like crouched up in a ball, it went away, y'all. 3 drops. I said, this is a miracle. I said, how does this work? Like, it was free. It was basically the cost of vodka to make it. I said, what is this world? And so from there, I really immersed myself in herbalism and nutrition, and I've had the opportunity to travel to places like Australia and India and Ghana to study traditional food and traditional food culture from a global perspective, so that I could really see the pattern of what the ancestors have been up to, and where this kind of comes into what it means to tell the truth, right? What does it mean to be a radical truth teller? Um, where I get to tell the truth from is from the perspective of the earth itself. And so there's the truth that emerges and arises from our social systems and our social inculcation or whatever, right? But then there's the truth that emerges from the body of the earth. So we shout out indigenous people, we name our lands that we're on, but when we take that deeper to understanding that all indigenous people have been shaped by relationship to the earth, the path towards re-indigenization, which is what I prefer to decolonization, because you can't decolonize your bloodline. Like I can't erase the white out. Like grandpa is still up there, right? Like just chilling. So I'm like, we can't actually decolonize. I can't stop speaking English. But what we can move towards is re-indigenization by following the lineage of the people in our bloodline, but also the lineages of the land. And so when we're talking about like speaking truth from the perspective of the earth, we put ourselves into deep relationship with the indigenous people, but also the truth that emerges is a queer truth, right? It's a multi-dimensional truth. One of the realities of activism and politics, period, is that politics are based off of dualistic thinking, right? You have to create Blackness in order to sustain the idea of whiteness. But the truth is, you know, beyond sort of these categorizations, like there's far more similarities than difference. And so when we engage in politics, it causes us to be related in a very binary way, which is perfect for what we're trying to achieve, right? Like we specifically want unhoused people to have access to housing, right? And so we're going to participate in politics. But when we move down to the personal, when we move down to the relationships between two strange people sitting in a Zoom room that they didn't know they were going to be in, what we really touch upon is the unimaginability of what's there, the depth of possibility, all of the things that are unknown, and it causes us to get really curious. And so when I think about like, what does it mean to truth tell from the perspective of the earth? It means that recognizing that there are patterns that are sustainable, that are reliable, like the sun rising, right? But then there are also things that are chaos. And my work as a healing justice practitioner has been to understand that the realm of the political is sacred, but to also understand that when we move into the realm of the person, that there are things that don't match that are sacred still. And so how do we actually tell the truth about race, about the, I'm thinking about the ways that I've been learned or taught to think about poverty as deficiency in this country, but the way that my brain as an anthropologist works is seeing like all the things that you get to have when you don't have so much, right? And so there's been this like wonderful reframing of looking at these patterned kind of conversations that we have inhabited in queering them and seeing what the actual truth of the situation is. And it doesn't leave you in a space of being popular, because what drives energy is division, right? Like that's so juice. We love that. What doesn't drive is like, well, what if it's like this? Oh, this is fascinating. Oh, okay. Like it's a different kind of process. So yeah, I want to end by saying that like being a radical truth teller and telling the truth from the perspective of the planet itself and the perspective of earth-based people, it means often going against some of our most sacred ways of being that we've learned from participating in activism and from participating in politics. And what I really want to do is give us that space and create alternative pathways of ways of being so that we can be an ecosystem of change makers that includes people who are sitting at the roots of trees and people at the treetops and people in suits. And I just want to create more space for all of us. So yeah, that's what I'll share. There's so much biographical information. I'm sure you can read my bio. But as we're moving into the last phase of this talk with y'all, I want to open myself up to responding to the truths and to the questions and to the curiosities that are in this room right now.
Sure. Before you do that, while folks maybe take a breath and think about what you're going to ask, I would love for Asia if you can share your Venmo and PayPal and any ways you would like people to support you. On this call, we encourage people to, in this moment, support our radical truth tellers. We fundraise for you for the rest of the month as well. And support Asia's work, support Asia. Asia is at the forefront of so much thinking around our connections to plants and connections to medicine and healing. And what I didn't say is that Asia has done so much in our own development here at Truth Telling Project, as serving as at one point as our healing justice coordinator when we launched the reparations campaign, and being one of the first activists in residence and just really doing amazing work. Support her in her trajectory and her work. We need healers as we transition, as we indigenize. Let's open it up.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that pause. I'm looking at Adrian right now, reminding me that I get to pause before every new thought. I shared two things that are really on my spirit. One is my Patreon. I know that this level is very, like, this conversation is high up, but I love writing about plants and teaching people how to heal stuff. The other one is the Petty Herbalist podcast. And this is where we go into the fabric of creating relationships through the vehicle of our relationships. So Karina is my co-creator. So those are two projects that really matter to me. And those are the ones that I posted the link to, so that you can get your learn on and your laugh on in our community. And so, yeah, I am here for the questions, the preguntitas. What are you curious about? How can I be available to relationship with you right now?
Hi, Aisha. I'll speak up.
Thank you.
I don't have a formulated question, but it has something to do with grief and the wisdom of the earth. And so I'm just wondering what comes to mind for you in your experience around the truth of grief in nature.
Yeah. I was grieving for my ancestors, and I got this message, and they said, don't grieve for us, breathe for us. Don't cry for us, fly for us. Don't die for us. And I loved, I've been sitting with how profound that is coming from my lineage. That what they want from me is to not grieve, actually. They want me to breathe, actually. Um, in our medicine ways, we learned that grief is held in the lungs. And so when I think about the impact of the global pandemic and its specific impact on our lungs, I have to ask ourselves what parts of our society is begging to be grieved for. I got to ask what the medicine of virus that is particular to the respiratory system has us reflect on, and even more so, what the allies that support our lungs have to offer us in this time as well. So, the wisdom of the earth in terms of breathing is 100% related to breathing. And when we don't let go, when we can't move through our grief, it gets lodged in our body. I wrote a wonderful essay, which is, I think, on my Patreon about Mullen and or about yellow dock and grief, and how to move through grief using herbal allies. But the earth wants us to be grieving. Claudio Casey. That's it's good and healthy for us to do that. So thank you for that question. Who else has a question?
Asia, can I ask a question? So, Richard Watkins, thank you for allowing me to be here and listen to you. It was a lot, and I am a politician, so please forgive me. And thinking that I can change the world through politics, forgive me. But I want to ask a question outside of being a politician
Yes.
and true to me being a curious human.
Mm.
I have always been an intense fanboy of nature, animals, anything you can imagine. One of the things that I have taken away from nature and the universe is that it seems to me and please attack what I say. And I just want to hear your honest response
Mhm.
that universal equity seems to play out through indifference.
Yes. Yes.
That's really all I have to say. I want to just hear your response. You said yes, but I
Yeah.
want to hear you kind of
Okay.
go off of that.
I got that. I got that. And I want to name that I see all of the I see humans as ecosystem. And so when I think about a politician, there's actually space for you in my worldview. And your space is valuable and relevant always. So thank you for holding down that space, which I do not. Right. And it's like that. The truth about what it means to be here on this planet. Um, TBH, right? To be honest, the way that I understand the grand curiosity of the earth is that they create a diversity of experiences because that's what keeps it interesting. We move through these epochs in time and it's very cyclical. We move from places of deep egalitarianism to places of hierarchical destruction, and then we move back. And so the earth and the people of the earth are also cycling through different changes. And right now, I'm thinking about my Mashika kin out here thinking about the seventh sun and some of the indigenous prophecies of the planet. But what I'm really thinking about is like, this is a time of conflict. This is a time of division, but what that creates, is fire, and what that creates is something new and something that is waiting to be born from all of this fire. So I am in the Ute territories, and the way that prairie lands were treated by indigenous people, they practiced what was called cultural burns. And so in order to prevent like the big fires, which we're experiencing now up in Boulder, in California, the indigenous people of these lands would practice smaller burns. They did this in Australia, they do this in Africa, all over. And so when I'm thinking about like all the fire and all of the division that's happening, I'm just thinking about like us moving back into processes of creating cultural burn. Like there has to be something that we're doing with all this energy that we're having. We have to be doing something with it. Right now we're doing that, me and you are two different people and let's fight about it. Like, let me fight with you about being, I don't want to assume your gender identity, right? Like male bodied, right? But let me fight with you about it. And let me, through that fighting, come to a new and different understanding of myself, right? Our question as humans is that, yes, we're experiencing our difference, but can we come and bring it back together again? Like, can we do that reflecting work? Can we do that restorative process? It's natural for difference to create distrust. Once that distrust has been created, can we then recreate societies in a way that's able to handle the complexity of that difference and to overcome? And that's what I'm reading and learning about now, actually, is how indigenous people have created technologies. I'm thinking about some of the Aboriginals where they just fist fight, but the rule of their fist fights is that whatever harm you cause to the other people, you have to cause it to yourself too. And so it acknowledges the true nature of wanting to be in conflict, but the culture is able to make sure that that conflict doesn't cause harm. That sounded convoluted, but I hope that there were pieces of it that sparked more curiosity so you can ask more questions, okay? Yeah, what else is there? What else is there for you? for y'all after hearing that. And you could say, oh, I really disagree, and you get on my nerves. Like, that is there. And I love when that's there, because we could talk about it.
I have a question. I want to go back to something that you said, because if I heard it correctly, then what you were just saying now reminded me of it. But you said something about that you decided at some point that you didn't want to be against anymore. You
Yeah.
didn't want to be against whatever anymore. But I thought I heard you say, and you were moving into a space where you're able to accept the world as it is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I did hear you correctly. Then that's what what it brings to mind with what you've just said about this idea of the differences and how we accept differences. One of the things I know that I've been reflecting a lot on is can I reach a place where I can let you be you? Yeah. And that feels real different to me than you ought to be more like me.
Oh,
And it's really like a totally different place to be.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share that was what had come to my mind. The other thing I wanted to ask you, early on, you said you took three drops of something that reduced your anxiety. And I missed what it was that the 3 drops were. Could you share that with us?
Karina, would you like to let them know about our ally?
Listen, I already knew, even though you didn't even have to say it. It's motherwort tincture.
What is it called?
Motherwort tincture.
Oh,
Leonardus cardiaca is the
Okay.
botanical name.
Yeah.
And I wanna name that, like, moving into non-duality, which is the kind of philosophies that I hold right now. Non-dual Shiva Tantra, to be specific. But moving into a place of non-duality is a deeply relational place, and we practice that with the people who were closest to us, right? I saw a video and there were 2 dancers, and I started comparing the 2 dancers in the video, and I said, wait, can I see difference without creating a value judgment on it? Can it just be that this one dances differently from this one and that neither is better or worse? And I was transformed on Instagram. I just sitting with, like, oh, we can be different. Our issue is assigning right and wrong to that difference. And that's what I'm getting out of my dualist practice. But what it does is that I can bring that then, right, into the political realm, right? And I could not make wrong. I could not make enemy so that I can make shit happen, right? I can bring that non-dualism, that non-judgment into the workplace where it is assumed that that exists, and I can transform relationships there and have even more impact as a reparationist, which I am, and as an activist. And so what the non-dualism allows us to do is to center and ground in self and in beauty before we move back out into the world. I saw a question come up from Wim. A trend that I return to during Black History Month is the continued denial of the need for reparations, which almost always starts with a question about who should and should not get them. How can we keep this discussion from causing harm and start to approach positive change? Did I capture that question, Wim? The truth is, reparations, especially specifically reparations for Black people, represents a significant shift in our capacity as human beings to be with difference. My Black skin, right, is a part of a broader conversation of anti-Blackness that exists globally. And so this act of actually coming term with the blackness, aka the darkness, aka the unknown, aka fear, aka all of these ideas that have been put into the Black body, right? To actually repair relationship with the Black body is to move into a whole new level of spiritual awakening. It's not a question about who should or who shouldn't get reparations. Here's what's really true. If you can come to terms with the least of us and you can create from that space, everyone benefits. Reparations for Black people don't have to be direct checks. I would be happy with single payer health insurance as reparations for Black people. I would be happy with, right? There are so many ways to think about the reparative lens, but you have to understand that here in the United States, it has been designed to keep Black people down, which is also designed to keep poor people down. And so when you repair relationships or do reparations, it's actually a bigger conversation about the transfer of wealth, right? And guess what? Like, all the money, all the water needs to move. It's getting stagnant at the top. All the plants are dying, everything's dry. There's all these forest fires. But I bet you if we started letting the money move, right, from the top and really allowing it to trickle down, in fact, we can create all sorts of designs in the landscape so that it learns how to hold water better, right? But reparations is really, how are we watering the beings that we find to be contemptuous, right? How do we relate to our shadow? And so giving reparations to Black people, it's really a spiritual conversation about shadow work. And I love approaching it from the realm of spirit. That's something that I learned through being on the campaign with David and Melinda, was that like, we don't need to talk about the technicalities, like we need to get our spirit right. And so that's kind of how I go about the reparations conversation, is that I move out of the left brain and move into like, do you want your ancestors to be proud of you? Or because right now your ancestors are talking to me about how sad and how they regret what they've done. Like, do you want relationship and connection? Like, do you want to get real? So yeah, that's how I was respond to that question. I know that was a lot, and maybe I hope that the ground was fertile enough to receive that kind of worldview, but truly, reparations is spiritual work.
I just want to hear more questions, but also acknowledge that it's past 8, if you're in the West Coast. I was trying to calculate it real quick. Mountain time. Please feel free to leave, but this is a beautiful conversation, and we'd love to hear if there are more questions and more conversation to be had. If people just want to stay, but don't feel pressure, want to honor folks' time. Yeah, I'm gonna need my check.
I'm here for the talk, y'all. I told Karina before, I said I'm gonna show up as myself. It's gonna be fine. So I'm just being me right now. I'm here for your questions, and also like, I truly disagree with you. Like, I'm annoyed. I'm okay with that kind of question too. I don't do this spiritual bypass thing.
No, I'm just messing around. Like that's I firmly believe. Like also money is spiritual. Like it is what we put our energy into. How much energy flows toward injustice. But and let me just reiterate to please support Asia on Patreon. Like seriously, I just did some support like I should have been doing, but I did it. You all please do it. And we'll be reminding you all throughout the month to support Asia. Also to check out the podcast. which I have been all over. The petty herbalist. Um, are you really petty? I just want to like,
Is that your curiosity?
yes, that's my curiosity. You don't have to respond.
Okay, y'all. So let me tell you about herbalism, okay? Um, so I'm all non-dualist and like namaste and everything's fine, except when it comes to my medicine. The way that I like feel right and wrong about things. So herbal medicine, our goal is to make herbal medicine people's medicine, right? And so we practice in a way that is simple, safe, and effective. And that's what my mentor, Susan Weed, has really instilled in me. And what that means, though, is that like it has to be safe because I don't want nobody to be harmed. It has to be simple so that we can transmit it and cause the movement to grow. And it has to be effective so that you can rely on it again and again. And so the way that like I practice herbal medicine is like my life depends on it because I have saved my own life many, many times. And so we are really interested in giving people back access to the earth. And so we only use weeds, right? We use the like things that people don't care about because we're not going to deplete it and it's local and you can always find dandelion, right? We're not fancy, we're not any of that stuff. So yeah, I am petty. I'm real petty. I'm gonna tell you like how to do it right and you're gonna have your life. The other part of activism is that like I really got sick and I burnt out and I destroyed the foundation of my health. And I couldn't believe what my life could have been like if I had access to simple herbs and if other activists, if other people in the movement weren't struggling with mental health, weren't struggling with aches and pains and gosh, the stuff that we can do if our bodies were well. I think wellness is one of the most radical things that we can have because it's tied directly to capitalism. It's tied directly to ancestral knowledge being erased. It's tied directly to the decimation of animal welfare. Tied directly to the decimation of the earth. Our wellness is a conversation about the earth's wellness, right? If we can't breathe, it's because the earth can't breathe. If we're depressed, it's because the earth's depressed, right? If we have cancer, it's because the earth has cancer, right? And so, yeah, the radical nature of like causing wellness in the world. I know that it could be trendy or whatever, but I'm a firm stand that like we get to have a good life in this lifetime. We don't have to wait till we die. And so you being healthy and feeling good in your chair right now, like that really matters to me.
So Aisha,
Yes, friend.
I'm here at Atlantic time, so it's even later than you all. And so part of my self-care is gonna be say goodnight because as you know, the Truth Telling Project never sleeps. They say Russ never sleeps, but it's really the Truth Telling Project never sleeps. Right, Dave? Right, Isra?
I don't know about you, but I'm gonna be in the bed soon.
Listen, take care, Melinda. It was so good to have your energy and your
So good to
spirit
see
here.
you. Yeah, anytime you need to come to the Caribbean, just let me know and
Yay.
we'll walk on the beach.
Be careful.
Great to meet you all on this call. So glad all of you came to join us and stay tuned for next month's Radical Truth Teller and go to the Truth Telling Project website to visit our previous truth tellers because everybody is just amazing.
Thank you, Melinda. Please sleep well,
Good
love.
night, everyone. Bye.
Bye. And yeah, I'm gonna put a cap on this container because I know folks are like, oh, I don't want to leave it. My cap is gonna be 10 more minutes. Okay, so 6:25, and that way you won't have FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So we're gonna go 10 more minutes, y'all. And
I just
yeah.
add one more little quick thing
Mhm.
before people jump off this call. Just that we have a petition around reparations. We're trying to change the name of Calhoun Square in Savannah, Georgia, to Susie King Taylor. Calhoun was one of the infamous slaver and seventh vice president. And beneath this square is an African burial ground. So this is one of our campaigns. We're trying to get to 1,000 signatures. So please sign it and share. And that's my last promo, and I'll be quiet.
Asia, I would like to say, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. In fact, I would like to just steal so much of your time so we can just talk about this, but I know you're busy doing so many other things. Dr. Ragland, thank you so much for having me. This has just been absolutely incredible, and I just wanted to convey my gratitude and appreciation for you all providing the space. I'm just truly grateful for being here. So I just want to say thank you.
Dr. Watkins, please sign up for Asia's Patreon.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yes,
Asia,
yes,
be
yes,
sure to check out richardlwatkins.com. Let's do some cross-pollination here.
I'm here for it. Oh, listen, I receive all the praise. So thank you. It fills up my cup. And then I get to share my love privilege with other people. So much appreciation. Any more questions about I love this conversation. Josh, I've been staring at you all night. What you got, bruh? What you thinking? What's on your mind? I see the wheels turning. And you're on mute. Mm-hmm.
Thanks. I've been running from 2 different devices all day.
Yeah.
With Facebook and my phone laptop on my pod. So I guess my question I usually ask every radical truth teller is kind of, if they have one play in a playbook, right? One tactic or one approach that you think is something that will be useful for us going forward as a movement. What is the thing that you think people need to adopt to keep it cognizant of? Even if you have an example of an organization that you think that you really appreciate or support that you think is doing the right thing. What is it? What is that organization? What do you think they're doing well? Where what are they doing? How do you think you can model that?
Yeah. So I really like my organization, Regenerate Change. And what I feel like is the juice is relationship. I find that the exhaustion that people have with being fake is so palatable, right? It's just so for me, the work is creating the workplace as a site of liberation in and of itself. And so how do we be relationship first, but also how do we stop performing relationship and get real with each other? At the end of the day, there are going to be wins and losses. We are going to be consistently engaged in struggle because there's a part of the world that's designed that way. There's not a get there, right? So for me, it's how do we choose? Hi, Jasper. We're going to go for a walk soon. Okay. Thank you. And so the question for me is, what is the path to getting there and how good can we make it feel? I remember being on a plantation in Louisiana with the Jubilee Justice Collective with Dave. And what was most striking to the folks there who were prepared to make relationship or to make reparations was that the core desire was to be emerged back into community again, was to not feel separate and separated again. And so for me, approaching reparations from a space of relationship and moving there first, that I've seen the most success come from that. When you tap into people's peopleness versus their guilt, the kind of things that are available to you is just unimaginable. You have to actually be ready to love your enemy in order to get the things that you want from them. And feminist theorists, some of my favorite, the author of The Velvet Glove, it's one of my favorite books, really talked about love as the conduit of coercion and change. And I thought that was radical. But she really did weaponize the use of love. And I said, how long have women been doing this? Like, what are the technologies that we could learn from our ancestors that will help us to negotiate with power in a way that works? And interestingly enough, I think love has been underemphasized. And I'm really grateful that I got to train in Kingian nonviolence, which emphasizes love. Happy Black History Month, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a great answer. I really
Yeah,
appreciate that.
thank
And I
you.
definitely feel, of course, that point about this, especially in this, era of being a lot on Zoom, that there's that extra weight that comes from having to deal with like a mask or a face that you have to put on. So I'm glad you really tapped into that, because I definitely feel that.
Oh, thank you for your sharing. So we have 5 more minutes, and I'm curious about Karen. I see you, Karen. How you doing, sweetheart? What's on your spirit tonight? How are you being moved by this conversation?
I find it very like a balm, um, that I can get very caught up in all of the national political shenanigans and the fear around all of that. And um, and to think about sort of stepping out of that struggle and into the creation of a healthy space is kind of what I hear you saying.
Mm.
You know, I find it very enticing and thought provoking.
Mm.
And I think you're an amazing young woman. I don't know how you got to where you are so young, but even at the beginning when we had all those squares on, I kept being drawn to your face. There's an energy that comes from you, a light that's beautiful. So thank you.
Mm. Thank you for pouring into me. Thank you for that share. And I know it's a vulnerable place. And I know that that rest and building healthy things is enticing. And I know that the work of social change is so hard. And I don't want us to get like only in the rest, right? Like, I just want to let you all know that there is like your work and your toil and your struggle is so sacred. It's not bad or wrong. I also want you to have something soft to land on, at the end of the night. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap up. Um, I want to really thank all of you for being here even later and participating and getting weird and getting into Zoom rooms and not really knowing what to expect, but really rolling in it and giving me that kind of trust, which allows me to show up fully. And so thank you, David. Thank you, True Telling Collective. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, everyone, for your questions and your time and just being with me tonight. It was medicine for me too. So I hope that you all rest up. Okay, get your sleep in. Okay, listen to your bougie auntie. Y'all better sleep tonight. And yeah, we will see you next time.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Alicia, thank you so much. Thank you, Karina. Thank you, everybody who came. See you later.
Hearts.
Next month.
Wow.
Bye.
Don't forget to donate and support.
All right.